All right. Well, welcome everybody to Everything You Need to Know About Starting Your Spiritual Business, Part 1. This is Part 1 because I did this workshop a week ago for the first time, and we had so much material that it had to be broken up into 2 parts. So tonight will be Part 1, and then in the next week, 2 weeks actually, I'll be doing the Part 2 workshop at 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. respectively on the Wednesdays. This will come out in an email. So I appreciate you guys joining us today. Thanks for helping launch this program. It's part of a spiritual workshop series that I started doing last month to help the people who are not ready to step into coaching or other private programs, just as a way to sort of give back and to maybe spread the word about how to become the spiritual healer that a lot of you are and want to be. And then also in this workshop is about how to go into business for yourself and support your family and while doing the things that you love to do. And there's many more topics. I've been a spiritual coach for a while now. And for those who don't know me, my name is Kevin Young. I'm an intuitive coach on the spiritual realm. I like helping people to reconnect with their own innate inner guidance, their intuition, if you will. And once you tap back into that inner being, then you have the ability then to be self-directed, self-guided. And to me, that's the holy grail of existence here in the physical form, finding that reconnection point, and then opening up the channel. If you want to go deeper into it, and spiritual healing actually then is facilitated by opening up the channel in a broader way, even to doing actual channeling, verbal channeling like Esther Hicks does, or channeling it through a medium such as dance or music or art or engineering or whatever lights up for you the most on the inside. To me, that's opening up the intuitive stream, and that's what I love, assisting people to find within themselves. I also love bringing like-minded people together. I've been called in channeling sessions multiple times a shepherd. I do love to facilitate light workers and spiritual beings to come together here in the physical, to know that we're not alone and that we're here to enjoy life and as a community. And I think even a small community of the light workers has a huge impact on the planet. And to me, there's nothing more rewarding than doing that kind of work. So lots to talk about today. What we'll be doing today, we're going to start off like we always do with these, with our weekly conversations, with a guided meditation. And there's nothing you have to do with that. It's just about getting us all kind of tuned to the same frequency. We'll ask and answer the question, why should you go into business? And the rest of the workshop will be how going into business. We'll talk about tools and support systems that you're going to need along the way. The different ways to offer your services, because there's more than just one. We'll talk about business models themselves, kind of what the business will look like from the outside, sort of from a practical standpoint. And then financial and tax-based concepts. And we won't go into a lot on those. I just want to cover the basics so that you can have your arms around what to expect and then seek out help in those areas if you're not an expert in those 2 concepts. And it'll be different for different places in the world. I'll be talking from the United States perspective because that's what I've known for the last 30 years. But a lot of the concepts are very similar regardless of what country you're in. So it would be helpful to find somebody to help you with the details on that. I would suspect most people know how to use Zoom, but for the new people here, please keep yourself muted until you want to talk in the conversation, participate here. You can always use the chat window as well, which is open to share whatever you'd like or to ask questions. If you want to get my attention, you want to ask a question, then just raise your hand. And if you're on a computer, there's a reactions button down at the bottom. Just click that and you'll see raise your hand spelled out, and just click on that. And you can lower your hand by clicking the same button. And this is being recorded, so it will become available eventually on my public YouTube channel. But I will send out an email after I get it up there to which may take a few days to let you know that it's up there in case you want to play it back. Because as I said, there's a lot of information here, and some of them that you might want to be taking notes around. Really important caveat. I tell people we're going to cover a lot. I've been in business for more than 30 years. I've had 3 different businesses. This last one with my wife Suzanne, who's in the window there. And there's I forget how much there is to know. So don't become overwhelmed, please. Anything that doesn't resonate for you right now, or maybe doesn't make sense, either ask a question or just kind of put it on the shelf, because you can come back to the recording anytime. And you don't have to know all of this in order to step forward into business. In fact, you really only need a very small amount. And in part 2 of this workshop, we'll be covering the practical aspects of getting started. There's actually a module within that where we will step through the minimum steps you need in order to start sharing your spiritual healing abilities and start collecting money if you want to do that. So, and again, questions, please ask questions. It's important. All right. Any questions on any of that before we move forward? As I said, you can type them into the chat window if you don't want to use the raise hand button. All right. Well, then, let's get into our guided meditation and see where we go. There's nothing you have to do here. I'm just going to pull this off for right now here. You can just relax and sit back, make your adjustments, get comfortable wherever you're at. Turn off your phone if it's enabled so you don't get interrupted. That'll allow you to make the deepest connection to your own inner guidance system and also to the others who are on the call, and also those who haven't yet listened to the call. Vibrationally, we are still connected to them. So we're up and up to here to a lot. All right, so let's get comfortable, relax. And as we close our eyes, we take a nice deep breath in. Holding it a moment and then exhaling. Breathing the air completely out of our lungs. Breathe in again. And as we breathe back out again, we gently release our thoughts, disengaging completely from the activity of thinking, while allowing the thinking to occur if it wants to in the background. And breathe in again. Hold it. And on the exhale, we drop into the present now moment, feeling the weight of the world roll off our shoulders, feeling the shoulders drop, softening and relaxing the body. And as we continue to focus on our breathing, this frees up the mind, letting it rest. It's so busy thinking all day. This is the opportunity to just let it sit back, not have to do anything. Just becoming the awareness, the presence. And if thoughts want to continue, that's okay. We just let them kind of drift on by like little thought bubbles, little clouds, but not engaging in the thoughts themselves. And the less we engage in the thoughts, the more they slow down, because we are no longer feeding them with our attention. And the more that the gap between the thoughts widens, the more peaceful we become. As we feel them slowly starting to dissipate, we notice the brightness between the thoughts starting to peek through, starting to shine through. Noticing source energy just beginning to flood through, the warmth, the brightness of the source of all that is. We notice that as the thoughts come to a stop, how good it feels to be basking in the warmth of infinite creation. Just surrendering to the natural ebb and flow of the universal consciousness. Just feel ourselves floating, maybe downstream. Laid back and relaxed, Such an easy, gentle ride. Not trying to control the boat, keeping the oars inside the boat, leaning back on a gentle bed of pillows, feeling the warmth of source energy sunlight on our face and on our bodies. Feels so good to let go. Feels so good to surrender to the broader consciousness, which always is carrying us in the moments that we let it. Feeling the love and appreciation that source energy feels for us in this challenging journey that we took on before we became physical. Trusting that we are always supported and connected, and that when we just remember to allow that flow to come through, that everything comes back online the way it was meant to be. And then nothing is ever really going wrong here. We may get off our track, but that's actually by design. The more that we flow off our track and slip into darkness for a little bit, the stronger the desire is that's created as a result of that. The clearer the awareness can become when we are ready for it. The more determined we become to step back into who we really are. And when we have the moment of awareness where our clarity starts to appear again after the darkness, then we can step into that light, step into that new awareness, that new creation of clarity, that new confidence that was born out of the contrast. And when we allow that to happen, we feel stronger, more secure in ourselves, a little more knowing of who we really are in our journey along this eternal path. We've been here so many thousands of times in different bodies, different lifetimes, just figuring out how to go deep and then extract gold as we come out the other side, and then going deep again and extracting more gold of awareness, more gold of clarity, new ideas. And in the moment of the awareness, we get to benefit. And in the moment of the contrast or the unwanted experience, the universe expands. Where we create the answer when the question becomes clear. And that answer is absorbed by the entirety of the ocean of all consciousness. And all who exist in this ocean of all consciousness now have the benefit of our clarity, as well as we do. Although usually we're the last ones to come into alignment and benefit from it. But there's no rush. What has been created will always remain created. What's available will always be available, continuing to expand and grow on our benefit. Before each one of these moments of contrast, eventually yielding clarity, is how the universe itself expands. It's how the ocean of all consciousness grows. We are individual perspective streams off of that ocean of all consciousness, but we're never separate. And our stream of positive intuitive impulses comes from that ocean, from that library of consciousness. The intuition that we receive is often the result of other people's contrasting moments that created clarity for them. We're just tuning to them. So it's like a big library in the sky. We're all putting new ideas in as we go through our challenges, and we get the benefit of not only the new ideas and the new guidance that we created, but of all the rest of creation, if we want it, if we open up to it. This is why every generation that's born stands on the shoulders vibrationally of the generations before. They have the benefit of the new awarenesses which we have created. And so it is throughout eternity, never-ending beautiful cycle of expansion. So nothing is ever going wrong. All is exactly as it should be, as it was designed to be. You can never not be on your path. You're always going in the direction of your dreams, or you're figuring out how to get back on the path to the direction of your dreams. But you're never not actually on the path. A little variety once in a while is a beneficial thing. And as we breathe into the resonance of that, we feel ourselves getting even lighter, more buoyant, having let go of a little bit of weight right there. Letting some old beliefs that were weighing us down just float away. And the higher and brighter in frequency we become, the more connected we become with the others at this frequency. And although we are infinitely sovereign beings with nothing but free will, who can never be shifted off of our frequency without our permission, there's beautiful benefit in co-creation with others at this frequency realm. As we float above the third dimensional consciousness realm into the multidimensional spiritual consciousness realm of the non-physical, we begin to feel how good it feels to be our true selves in this moment, our authentic, brilliant beings. Then we open up to the natural inclinations, the gifts that we have to connect, that express in their own unique ways through our bodies and our physical lives. Whether it's spiritual healing or channeling or delivering messages, maybe it's art, maybe it's science. It doesn't matter what the physical expression is, as we honor that part of ourselves, own that part of who we really are, just let it resonate within us so strongly and flow through, letting go of the disempowering beliefs completely and just being who we came to be. In the moment of that resonance, we are so bright, so energetically shiny to the rest of the universe that those who are looking for our gifts to benefit them, those who are looking to be helped in their healing journeys, uplifted by our gifts and abilities, can now start to find us. They can feel us. They've been looking. And those who are in resonance with what we have to offer now can start to find us. And the law of attraction can start to bring us together at whatever speed we want to allow. So there's no effort involved in attracting clients, bringing people close who might benefit by our services. None at all. In fact, the only thing we ever have to do is come into alignment with ourselves and honor that passionate side and have fun and step into joy and ease and lightness. And all those moments when we're doing that higher frequency work, then our clients are being guided as they are ready in our direction. For how we are in this now moment is perfect and an exact match for millions of other beings who are ready for what we have. There is no need to try to get better or reach some other milestone before we step out and start sharing who we are with others. We are at a frequency match now. Who you are is good enough now. And you may not feel ready, and that's okay. There's no rush. But if you are excited about the idea of sharing who you are and your gifts and your talents with others in the prospects of helping them to heal or just in uplifting them through whatever it is you do, then you're ready now. It's okay to be scared. But if you're eager, excited about the idea, you actually are ready right now to step into it. And if you feel that fear, replace it with the love of those who are eager to benefit from your services, how much they appreciate that you have the courage to step into your darkness and through it so that they will eventually be able to benefit from knowing you and experiencing who you are. Tapping into the love of millions is overwhelming, but it's all right there. Feel that flowing through your bodies. Allow that in. Trust that the universe will never let you down. It will always be there to support you. Your entire spiritual support team, those in the physical realm, like in this group and beyond, are all here to support you. Taking those bold steps towards opening up your own business, sharing who you are through love and appreciation, and then allowing those who are benefiting to show their appreciation either through words or actions or through financial means by getting paid. You are so worthy of so much abundance. It's time to open the door and let it in. Let me take a moment to bask in that flow. Feel the energy flooding in. Feeling how deeply it connects with us. And allowing ourselves to be ready. And now with this channel opened up and our lightness of being activated, we leave that channel open while shifting our focus back into the third dimension, back into our bodies, and back into this session right here and right now. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Wow, I felt a lot of intention by the guides, by the higher consciousness. It's there was such strength in wanting you to know that it's time, that you are ready, that you're supported, that the millions who will benefit from you when you're fully ready to step into it are ready, and nothing can go wrong by stepping into it. So I'm curious, what experiences did you guys have in the meditation? Anyone want to share it? Did you receive anything? Did you feel a shift of any kind? Or was it just kind of a blur? You can type in the chat window too if you don't want to come on to the screen. We have a small group here, so everyone can participate if you feel inspired to. Just unmute yourself. See, Julie says always very relaxing. I'm glad to hear that, Julie. Did you feel the bigness of the calling? That's what I kept getting. Kept coming back to the bigness of, and yet not big in the sense of vibration, because there's no, castle and a button, as Abraham says, are the same size. But the amount of people who can and are ready to benefit from us, just as we are exactly right now. Oh, thanks, Lynn. She just got here. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, it was basically the calling of Source saying you guys are ready. I've had the same calling in a number of my own private channeling sessions in recent times, actually for a few years now, but now it's become a lot more intense, and they're really kind of strongly nudging me in sessions. That's why I'm doing this workshop, by the way. That's why this series of workshops is leading into then an ongoing support program. I've wanted to do it for years, but finally I was just gently but firmly nudged into doing it and letting go of the fears that I've had around doing it. Amanda says, I felt a big whoosh come over me. Yes, 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 Amanda, there it is. Glad you could join us, Amanda. Yeah, that's it. That's the shift. And one of the interesting things about channeling, or whatever you want to call it, opening up to the energy, is that it often is, it happens suddenly. Like you'd think, oh, I'm just gradually opening a valve, but it seems to come on sometimes very suddenly as we let go of a piece of resistance. So expect that to happen as time moves on. As you guys intentionally step into your vibrational alignment, you do your meditation work, your relaxation work, come to workshops like this, whatever it is that works for you. Your vibrational average frequency will continue to raise. And there'll be moments where suddenly you will have an overwhelming feeling of love pouring through your body that you've never felt before. Those shift points happen as we open the valve, and there's no end to them, by the way. It just takes, the feeling is it takes time for the body then to acclimate to the higher frequency, the faster moving energy. So there can be a little even disorientation, but that's when you know you're on the path and you're going in the right direction for you. Amanda says, I'm glad you're doing classes again. Yeah. Hey, I've been waiting for me too. But I'm glad you could make it, Amanda. There's so many people who are ready for this, and it's time for me to kind of put my money where my mouth is and step past my own resistance around, the bigness of this. Because, I've had a vision for many years to reach lots and lots of people, but there was always something that would deflect me, and that's just a learned lack of belief in myself, the unworthiness that we're taught, and all those different layers that come up as they need to, but they're peeling off as I step in and have enough courage to do the work on myself. Then I have that stepping forward, and then things start to flow again. So it's like you can't get it wrong. There's no rule about where you should or shouldn't be. And why not move forward? What do you got to lose? Right? The danger's gone from childhood. You're not going to get yelled at, put in a timeout, or scolded or spanked. It's safe. It's okay now. We can move forward. Yeah, Lynn, I see you got your hand up. What
Hi, thank you. Great to be here. Thank you so much for doing this. Just something I noticed in myself midday today, when I had to kind of like regroup and get out of all the busyness. For some reason, I thought about maybe this has something to do with doing this kind of work as a business. But I realized that like if it's a little off the track. But if someone gives me money, okay, say as an example, I have a friend who I've done a lot of things for, like, in a way, and he's done a lot of things for me, but like he was helping me out by giving me some money. I think I have a belief that I have to work like to an equal amount for the money that I receive. And that I don't feel comfortable really yet to accept money. Like, say, one time, Abraham Hicks, somebody said, I think he was helping some friend of his who was sick or something, and the woman passed away or something, and the relatives want to give him a bunch of money, and he said, I don't feel right accepting it because I don't feel I did anything. And Abraham said, you loved her, you gave her love. And so there's something like, I never really thought of that, because that does come up. I feel like, did I give an equal amount for the money that I'm, and pricing this kind of stuff, I think deals with that issue. That's what I just want.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. That will actually be the topic. We're going to get into that in the second part of the workshop next week.
Okay.
In the following week, because it's so big. And in fact, this came through in a channeling session last month as we were talking about this moving into this. One of the things they said very clearly is the people who are going to come to these workshops and the work that I'm doing, including me, have self-belief issues.
Yeah.
We don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe in our worthiness. We don't believe in that we deserve to have things, because maybe in childhood we were the ones who always were giving to other people.
Right.
Maybe a parent was needy or whatever, and we became the giver. But if we started to try to get what we needed, then they got mad. And so we fall into that kind of that loop.
But and that equal, like, trade in a way, like,
conditional exchange.
Like, it should come from that, the universe could be giving it back to you through anybody as a channel. But it's like, but I didn't do the work with you. I did, what I'm saying? Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because it was interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought it up. And ultimately where we're all headed as a society, as a species, even as we evolve and expand, is unconditional exchange.
Right.
And that's I'm doing that now. That is mostly, that's my coaching is pay whatever you want or nothing.
Right.
Yeah. And but it's uncomfortable at times for me as well, because there are times I think, well, this person isn't paying anything, but that person is paying more. And then for a moment, I slip back into that conditional exchange, and I remember, no, if I let go of that, then the universe now has the ability to bring the compensating equivalent energy in whatever the path of least resistance is to me. And it has, and it does.
It's the old economy paradigm of what we think, like, you give and then, so this is, again, these paradigm shifting things, and then we have to catch up with it, as Abraham says.
Yeah, but we're a ways from that. And as a society, we're a long ways from that. And there's nothing wrong with starting where we are with how things are expected to work. And so the first thing is let's get a traditional business running. And then as you build your confidence, then you can step into those other realms as you feel called to. But the society expects conditional exchange right now.
Right. Very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, you're right on one of the most important things.
Thank you.
And I know it's going to continue to get even better. Anybody else want to comment before we move along here? In a second, I'm getting messaged by somebody. Oh, it looks like somebody, we had a problem with the Zoom link going out earlier. Suzanne actually ran into that. I'm going to, give me just a second. Somebody just messaged me. Yeah, there we go. So it looks like a couple people might be joining us. So I guess what my fear about the system not quite being set up right actually was true. Yeah. Anyway, so some other people will be joining us here as wanted and expected. All right. So let's keep moving right along here. Great conversations. All right, so let's get the slide back up here. Why go into business? Why even bother? Seems like a lot of heartache. It is work, but the neat thing is you can start very small, particularly in the U.S. I don't know about other countries, but we're really designed for the small business. There's tens of millions of small businesses. They are the majority. They're the engine of our economy, are the small business owners. So there's every reason to go into business for yourself. But there are a lot of things to know about. There's a lot of caveats about going into business. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. So you can have the heads up and to make the decision, do you really want to do it? I suspect that everybody on the call at some level would like to do it if it were easy enough to do, but you don't have to. So why go into business then? Well, the obvious thing is helping others. And we're all helpers. All of us are uplifters, maybe teachers, coaches. There's a part of us that wants to help other people. It's kind of innate in what we do. So by being more of your authentic self, you're helping others. Support you and your family. Again, we talked about that. There's the amount of money you receive is the amount of money you will allow. There's no other valve. Don't look outside yourself for why you're not getting as much money as somebody else. It's only about you and the universe, because the money is created energetically. Money's just energy. It's just a flow of energy like everything else. It's just one manifested form. And so the more we can let go of the beliefs around money, as we were talking just a moment ago with Lynn, then the more that we can allow in. I've had channeling clients who started off at $200 an hour. Now, some people who have never made anywhere near that money, it's like, you're kidding. Like, well, but they're making a living. They have a client waiting list because they know the value of their channeling. In this case, it's channeling. And it took time to validate that in themselves. They had to, go out there and find out that, oh, yes, in fact, I'm making a difference in this person's lives. But everybody on this call has the same ability, not only to attract that money and allow it in, but to affect people's lives in a very powerful, positive way. It's just about alignment and letting go of the fears and so forth. And which is the next part, which is expressing your spiritual gifts and talents. Being able to open the channel and stand in that flood of source energy flowing through you as you be your true self. It doesn't get better than that. My channeling or coaching sessions, which are actually becoming more like channeling sessions, are just, it blows my mind what's happening in them now. Even earlier today, I had one where she was inside of her body and seeing things happening, moving around. She had this imagery of these sort of like cartoon characters almost, which she had had for a long time, but suddenly they were cooperating, and things where she had resistance in a certain body part, where she'd had pain, suddenly gave her answers as to what what they needed. And then there's another part of her that was communicating, and it's just all this one little example of me being able to really hold powerful space, because I'm opening up my challenge, surrendering my brain's control and letting source control it, and then the client showing up and doing what they needed to do to create their own experience. It's just, I'm telling you guys, it can get so good as you just trust and step into this. So that to me is the biggest one, expressing your spiritual gifts and talents. And of course, enjoy life, because not only will you be flooding source energy through you on a more regular basis and supporting other people and getting paid, but now you've got so much freedom, so much more you can do with your life and on your own terms. Now, that brings us to one important caveat. And that is that if you need money to survive right now, then this isn't the time to go full force into a business. Okay. It's okay to get a job. It's okay to find other ways to receive money. It's okay to live with somebody if you can't afford that. Some of the reason I began the conditional exchange a year ago was I had several people showing up who were living in tiny apartments and could barely afford food. And yet they're some of the most powerful channels I've worked with today. And I knew I had to work with them, not only for them, but for me, because I wanted this. And so that's why I offered it for free. So that way they didn't need to do more than they were doing, and very quickly it came up to speed. But those who need to pay the bills right now, or if you're in a situation, just don't make the sudden jump. I'm speaking from my own experience. So it's okay to take it gradually. It's okay to prove this step and then step into the next one and prove that next step. And then suddenly, though, this can go very fast. Once you get past the beliefs, the self-doubt and so forth, things start to flow very quickly for you. And it doesn't take long at all to actually have a successful business. And in fact, things like channeling, which sounds still pretty esoteric, even to our community, are actually easy compared to overcoming the childhood wounds. So just know that there will be some time facing into your fears and releasing them. And programs like this, I'm happy to coach if anybody wants to work specifically with me on some stuff. There's lots and lots of support coming online. Get the emotional support you need. And we'll talk about that here a little bit more in a minute. And then let the business actually create itself right underneath you. And you're just having fun with each step of the way. And that's how it will happen. Yeah, I see Lynn says looking for work at the same time. Yeah, by all means. And find something fun that you like to do, Lynn, even if it doesn't feel like it's along this line. Just someplace where you can be your more joyful self, someplace where you can contribute in a way, even if it was people like, I had one medium who was cleaning toilets, but she liked contributing. She liked making things clean for other people. There was something that brought her joy in that moment. And so find the things that do that kind of thing. Let's see. Yes, lots of that. All right, so any questions on why go into business before we move on there? I think we're okay. All right, so let's go to the tools needed to get started here. Okay, I kind of put these in a rough priority order. That's not, you can do it lots of different ways, but for the kind of work that most of us are doing, oops, let's go back here. Gotta move these out of the way here. I got too many windows up. Zoom, most of us are doing sessions of some sort, whether it's verbal or healing or channeling or coaching or some sort of therapy work, or you can even do art and other things. Zoom is a critical piece. If you're doing anything like that, you'll want Zoom, and you'll want the paid account because Zoom free account limits you to 40-minute sessions, unless you're going to be doing very short sessions. Plus also the paid account, which I think is only about $19 a month US. So it's not a lot of money at all. Your first session every month will pay for Zoom plus all the other tools that you'll need. And plus a paid account for Zoom hooks into the booking system really easily so that you don't have to deal with creating Zoom links and sending them or any of that stuff. Your booking system will take care of all that for you. Second thing is booking system. So booking system basically manages your clients for you. It manages your booking calendar. It allows the clients to actually book their own sessions. And it takes payments if you hook it to a merchant account. It sends out the reminder emails, all the emails you've received from signing up to being reminded in the text all come from the one booking system. The one that I use is called Acuity Scheduling. They were bought out by Squarespace last year. They are amazing. And I think we pay, again, about $19 a month or so for two accounts. Suzanne and I both have a piece on there. So somewhere in that price. And Acuity is just magic. And it takes a bit to get to know it because it's got a lot of moving parts, but they walk you through a lot of things to be sure that you don't miss a step. So the booking system is really essential. The booking system, the Acuity even has a booking page built into the system, so you don't have to have a website. We'll get to that in a second. You can just hand out your booking system link to people and say, here, go ahead and sign up on my calendar. Here, I've made some spaces available for you for clients. Like for me, I am limited to 2 appointments a day, 10 possible in a week. And there are other caveats, like I don't allow for more than 2 appointments a day. You can set all that in Acuity. And you can also put buffer time if you got an appointment for a doctor or lunch or something. You can put all that in, and then the booking system automatically blocks that time out so the client doesn't see availability during those times. The way you signed up for this workshop was through an Acuity page. So that would be sort of the front end, so to speak. And Acuity also then and a lot of these systems will then tie into the merchant account. We'll get to that here in a second. In fact, let's go into the calendar app next. Most of you use a calendar of some sort to keep track of your day. A digital calendar is helpful. Google or Outlook or Apple iCal. There's a lot of calendars. Those are the primary ones. But you've got to have some way of knowing when you're going to show up for your client session if you're doing sessions. So that's what the calendar app does. And the neat thing about those apps, which like I said, most of you probably have at least one of these. I've got a couple actually now, that it ties into the booking system. So a client books a session and then it automatically calls up, let's say Google Calendar, says, hey, Google Calendar, you got a session on Friday at 3 p.m. And then it shows up on your Google Calendar. You don't even have to look at Acuity. So your client goes to your page, puts in their name, picks a date out of the list that you've allowed, and then boom, shows up on your calendar. And so you look on Friday, oh, hey, I got a session there. You can also limit, like I have a limit so they can't book less than 24 hours before the appointment so that they're not booking 10 minutes before the appointment and I don't know anything about it. So you can put a window ahead of that as sort of a limiting factor. And you can also limit rescheduling, canceling, and so forth. There's a lot more to Acuity. I'll probably end up doing a whole workshop just on booking systems because it's really the central piece of a fully functioning individual business is the booking system. And then the merchant account. This is for taking payments, credit cards, debit cards, transfers, and so forth. Again, you don't need this to get started. People can send you check or cash or free Cash App, Venmo. But a formal merchant account, Stripe is the biggest one. That's the one that we use. Again, hooks into the booking system. So when the client books their session, if you are charging money, it'll go to a payments page. That's actually hosted by Stripe. And so Stripe then collects your credit card information in a very secure manner because that's all they do. And then sends the money into your checking account minus there's about a 3% transaction fee. It doesn't cost you anything in terms of a monthly fee. It's just a transaction fee. So now you've got a system with just those 4 pieces where clients can book based on whatever calendar you set up. You'll get notified. They show up on your calendar. Money comes in. You didn't even see it. It goes right into your checking account. And on the day of your appointment, you open up your Zoom app and you click the button that shows up in Zoom, because the last piece is that the booking system also then pulls the Zoom links out of Zoom without you needing to know about it and sends them out in the email. So the client gets the email with the Zoom in it, just like most of you did. Apparently some didn't, and I'll clearly have to fix that before the next workshop. But if it's set up right, and it was my fault that I didn't set it up right, then it's all taken care of. And then, like I said, you just open up your Zoom app, and then all the Zoom sessions that you have are all listed there for you. And just click on the one and say start the session, and boom, there you go. So the whole point, I'm very much about us not doing all this work. Once it's set up, don't make your business bigger than your business. That's what Jerry Hicks always said, that don't let your business get bigger than your business, because then it's no fun doing what you love. You want to have the work done for you. And these are cheap automated ways that you can do that. And you can hire people to do this too. If you get going, start making lots of money, then you'll want people doing some of this. We'll get into taxes and finance and so forth in a bit, but that's kind of the start. I see, Julie says, yeah, she does proofreading on the side and does Venmo and PayPal. Yeah, there you go. So nice, easy way. So she doesn't even need any of that. People can just send her an email, or however she likes to be contacted. You agree on a time. I mean, this is how I started. You just agree on the time and the date, and then, send me the money through, I think we used to use PayPal, I think, when we started maybe. And, and then boom, there you go. So there's no barrier to entry to starting a business. You need none of this except for maybe Zoom if you're doing remote sessions to get started, and then a Cash App if you're going to exchange money. Yes, yes, yes. And then these are optional. Again, this is all optional in this order, but as you get going, you might want a business bank account. And the reason is just to keep your money separate for tax time. In the US, we have the Internal Revenue Service, which is the one government branch which has no limits. They can come in and seize anything for any reason. Well, they've got reasons, but you don't want to mess with taxes in the US. And so having a business bank account, you can just have your money deposited there. And then when you have expenses based on the business, like you got to buy, I don't know, pay for Zoom, for instance, then that comes out of the business bank account. And then it's all nice and clean. It's all in one checking account in one place. You don't have to worry about separating things out at the end of the year, because they're already separated out, as long as you're diligent about it. And you can get business bank accounts pretty cheap. If you keep money in a personal checking account, a lot of times they'll waive the fee, or it'll be a low fee for the business banking account. You'll have to check whatever's working for you. And then again, as you get more and more deep into this, and you don't want to be doing things on paper napkins and so forth, get yourself an accounting program. And my two favorites are Quicken and QuickBooks. Quicken is good for personal accounting, personal checks and credit card accounts, and keeping all your stuff personally. And they have a business module now in Quicken, so you can actually do a business and your personal both within Quicken. I think you have to pay extra for the business module. We use QuickBooks as the business side. I've used QuickBooks since it was a DOS program, probably in the early 90s or so. So I'm very familiar with that, and I like QuickBooks. Although now we have a bookkeeper who's doing a big part of the QuickBooks stuff, so that because Suzanne had taken it over. She used to run her own business for many years, and so she's taken over some of that, but trying to both ease our own burdens of business and offloading things to other people. And then one last thing in this area, and then there of course will be more tools, but this is, like I said, we're just kind of covering the basics. A domain. Now, a domain is simply a pointer to a location on the web, on the internet. So intuitivecoachkevin.com is one of, I think, 13 domains that we own. And they all have different purposes for the stuff that we're doing here. Another one is Suzanne, for her book, is stepping into a life of joy.com. So it's a pointer to a location on the internet. Typically, domains are used to point to a web hosting site. So you'll create a website in a certain location on the internet, and then your domain is then set up in what they call DNS to actually then jump to that website wherever it is. But a domain and a website are not the same thing. The domain points someplace, and the website is the actual material, which is hosted someplace. But the advantages of getting a domain is that you can also point it to your booking page that you have through Acuity. I have a number of clients who that's as far as they ever went. They never did get a website. Well, actually, one did actually get the website, because on the booking page, you can actually put a little bit about your business. You can put a picture or two, and then all your appointment slots and so forth all show up in the one place. So the domain actually points into Acuity's website, your personal location. So you, if I didn't have, if we hadn't done a website, I would just have intuitivecoachkevin.com go directly into my Acuity account, into my personal page there. So that's so it's handy, because then you don't have to remember what the link is for your booking page. You don't have to copy and paste it because you can't remember all the letters. You just remember, oh yeah, it's the name of the company that I decided to register. In my case, Intuitive Coach Kevin, but we also have personalsuccessprograms.com, which goes to the website. And my page is on within that website. So there's all sorts of things you can do with the domain. They're not expensive, unless you get one that's got a lot of usable words. They charge more for ones that would be more popular, but typically maybe $19 a year, and you should get security too. If there's a privacy feature, get that. Otherwise, your personal information is made public. All right, so now we get into support systems. Well, I have 3 basic ones, and there's probably 100 others, but these are the important ones for today. Emotional support. Oh, I just saw Vanita popped in a question here before we move on here. It says, what do you suggest having one business name and the other expansions are DBA, doing business as? Yeah, we'll get into business models in a second. The DBA, doing business as, is just an alias for you, the person. There's no tax benefit. It just makes it, you can take out a checking account under the DBA. It's an assumed name. But you can do it. I do recommend separating it, unless you want to be the star of the show. And there are a lot of people out there, like Lori Ladd, for instance. She's been in the spiritual realm forever. She does tons of videos, lots and lots of followers. And she's LoriLadd.com, and everybody knows her as Lori Ladd. So she doesn't have a business associated with it. It's just her name. But a lot of other companies, most other companies, so you'll come up with a name that represents what it is you're doing. And the advantage of that is that if you want to do something else, you can create a different business. It's not, if Lori Ladd wanted to go into real estate, then Lori Ladd's known as a spiritual person. So there is that, but you'll figure it out. These are all, this is all icing on the cake. It's not the cake. And you can change at any point in time. So yeah, emotional support. This is the most important of this whole journey. Friends and family who you trust and who understand your journey. The Lightworker Exchange, I think most of you on this call are part of. We'll talk about Lightworker Exchange at the end. It's a free Facebook group where people in our spiritual community can get together and share things. IntuitiveConneXion, which is the group I'm launching, which is a private ongoing support system for doing more intense work together, really diving into starting businesses and dealing with the deep issues and so forth. Get a coach if you don't have one, or some sort of mentor. You can get, there's lots of spiritual mentors out there. Channels are very powerful, but they tend to be more expensive now because they're so helpful. They're worth the money, but if you don't have the money, then that's a problem. So start lining up, make a list of the people that you know, like, and trust, and will be positively supportive of your journey. I'd say that's one of the highest priorities in this journey. Because without that, if you can't get through your personal challenges, none of the rest makes any sense. And it doesn't make any difference what kind of domain you have. You have a whole booking system, but if you feel scared to even turn the computer on because you're afraid of what might happen because of some childhood wound, well, that you just, no sense in defeating yourself. Start with the emotional. The second thing is a tax and finance or finance person. Don't do this unless you're good at it. There's a lot of pitfalls in the tax code in the U.S. And although when you're starting small, there's not a lot to worry about, because they don't care, if you don't get the taxes exactly right from your tiny business, they want to get their millions from the big companies. But at some point it becomes an issue, and you don't want to start off in a big mess either. To find somebody you could even exchange services with. Maybe you help them with a reading or deliver a message or do a little coaching, whatever it is that you're bringing forth. Anyways, you can barter, and that can work for a little while. But get somebody who knows those things that you can tap into once in a while, and just to ask a question. And the last thing that I recommend is a tech person. If you're going to be doing things online with the internet, find somebody who you can call every once in a while. You probably have somebody already in your life. You may not have thought about it. Friends, family, even local businesses, sometimes you can get a little bit of support. Again, sometimes you can even trade with with a local business, but if you sit down for that Zoom session and suddenly the computer doesn't boot, I mean, you got to have somebody to call because that's your livelihood. And although the computers are really solid these days, I was in IT for 20 years and technology before that for a couple more decades, kind of overlapping. And computers are very solid now. And the last two places that I would recommend are Upwork.com and fiverr.com. I'll just copy those into the message window here. We've used both of these. Upwork actually redesigned our website to make it so that I could change it myself. And it only cost a few $100s, although keeping in mind I was a tech guy, so I knew what I was doing. All right, any questions on the support systems? No? All right. So here's some ways to offer your services. The most obvious one is individual sessions, one-on-one. This is what I've done mostly, except like this workshop is a group workshop, but this is an individual, or people will be starting off with individual sessions. Zoom, again, most of this kind of support work is done over Zoom, can be. We used to do phone coaching when I first got started before Zoom became a big thing. So we would do it over the telephone. In person, of course, we sometimes have the occasional client come here to the house. I never did have an office because I didn't want to have a full-blown in-person coaching service. But you can get an office. I've had clients who will rent space someplace or in a basement or that kind of thing. You can even do sessions over email. I've done a little bit of coaching over email. Some people have a practice of actual coaching over email. It's very slow, but there is a market for everything. So don't discount what you can do to offer your services to people. And of course, social media is the obvious big one as well. One important thing I like to remind people of, do what feels good to you, not what you think they want. Okay, feel into that energy around everything here. It's easy. Marketing these days says, go figure out what your client wants and then figure out how to give it to them. And I can't think of a quicker way to get out of alignment and slow down progress than trying to do figure out what somebody else wants and then figure out how to give it to them. Now, do what feels good to you, come into alignment with that, do the hell out of it, and then all the rest of this lines up. So whatever way of giving sessions feels right to you right now is the right way to do it. The next thing is the group sessions. That's what we're doing today. It can be done over Zoom. It can also be done over phone. It can be done in person, social media. The advantage of the group session is that obviously there's more people. There's one of you and more people, so you get paid more. And typically, at least in coaching, you would charge 1/2 to 1/3 your individual rate. So if somebody was charging $100 for an hour session, then you might charge $33 for a person in a group session. That's arbitrary. You can choose whatever number you want. That's just what the coaching people told me one day, and I did it that way for a while. The advantage, though, to the client in the group, you might think, well, that's just, now I'm diluting myself to the client. They're not getting as much of me. And that's true. But what they are getting is the energy of the group. And I never knew how powerful that was until I did my very first group session. And suddenly everybody's on the same page and they're talking to each other and seeing they're getting benefit. Everybody's individual story, the thing that they're talking about in the moment, everybody else is benefiting because we're on the same frequency, because law of attraction brings together people who are on the same frequency and looking for the same kinds of things. So there's a lot of power in the group. So don't discount that. And again, like I said, it's a great way to leverage and get paid more for your single hour of time, and while still creating great benefit. You can also do retreats. That's in person typically, but they can be done remotely. I'm going to be helping friend and client Magdalena Lyle, who's in Australia. and I'm going to zoom in and do a guided meditation for their retreat group, and then do some coaching and some of the stuff we're doing here. I'm going to do that remotely. So you don't have to, a retreat can be, typically they're done in person, where you go someplace, run a place, and then people pay a premium price to come and be with you for the whole weekend. There's probably not a rush for any of you guys to do that right now, but if it calls to you, that might be your thing. And then the last thing is materials, right? The first three of these are services, and the bottom one are products. Okay, so you can create recordings, you can create workshops, you can create music, you can create meditations. There's a lot of people on Insight Timer who get paid a lot of money to do meditations. In fact, I had one actually reach out to me and say, why don't you do guided meditations on Insight Timer? You can make some money that way. Yeah, might do it. Hasn't called me that strongly yet. But Suzanne wrote a book. That's another way to offer your services. She channeled her information through a book, spent a lot of time getting her story written, the way it felt right. And now it's helping a lot of people. Those who buy the book are getting a lot of benefit because her life story shares a lot with people. And then there's all sorts of other products. So there's lots of ways for you to flow who you are out. Another example would be in our group in the Lightworker Exchange, Lindsay Cooper. She does these magnificent channeled artworks. I know a lot of you guys are familiar with it. And she sells them on Etsy. And she actually now can turn them into small pictures. She can turn them into mugs. That's all done for you. So lots and lots and lots of ways of offering who you are. Any questions on that before we move on? All right, let's move on to business models. This is all USA based, and keep in mind, I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a formal business advisor. I've just had a lot of experience with businesses. Okay, so sole proprietor, that's just you. These, again, US models. The optional DBA we talked about earlier, that's the doing business as. You register that with the county when you're in the United States, and you just come up with an assumed name that nobody else is using. I had my first business, I think it was 1983. It was called Creatronics because we were in electronics, but we did creative work. And I went to the county and I registered that name, and nobody had it, so I used that on my checking accounts. I could have just been Kevin Young, but that was a way of me mentally separating myself out, and you look more professional that way. But there's no tax advantage to that. It's just perception and organization. LLC is the more common one for United States, limited liability company. This is taxed like a person, but you have a shell of liability protection around you. So if somebody came after you, you did something that caused them physical or emotional harm, which nobody in this group is going to do, you're too high vibration. But if you wanted that shell of protection, you then register an LLC, come up with a name, and register it with the county. Here in Michigan, it's $50 to register and $25 a year. So again, not a big deal financially. That's the one most people lean towards at our level, LLCs. And there's some very large LLCs too. It depends on what your tax needs are. I don't recommend the S corporation or the C corporation. Corporations in general are for much larger businesses, have other benefits, but they're very heavy weight on the financial structure. You need a full-time CPA to do a lot of that. And please, please, please do not take on a partner. Please don't take on a partner. Please don't take on a partner. It's natural to think, oh, well, I've got this other person who does this kind of work, and maybe they're a CPA or maybe they're a marketing person or whatever, and we'll just partner up, and I'll do this part and they'll do that part, and we'll share the profits and live happily ever after. And that works for about the first month until the vibration starts to get out of sync. You start to see how much work you're doing and you can't see how much they're doing, or vice versa. Or maybe you weren't exactly on the same vibrational page, and now you're starting to go in different directions as the company grows, as money comes in. They always are started from a place of perceived weakness. Now, that's hard to hear sometimes, but think about the vibration behind it. Oh, this person can do taxes and I can't do that. Well, now I don't have to pay money on taxes. Now I'll just have them do it for free, and I'll give them, and then I'll do my part. That's a scarcity mindset. It says, I don't have enough money to afford a tax person, and maybe if I offer this thing, my thing for free, which I'm now discounting, then they'll be good with that. So you're both coming from a scarcity mindset. I've had a half a dozen partnerships in my long career, and every one of them failed, and some of them within a couple of months, and some of them were very financially painful. And I learned a ton about myself, that I was bringing this scarcity mindset to the partnership, and I didn't realize it. And even worse than taking on a partner is taking a partner who's a client. I made that mistake a couple of times too. And guess what's happening? Clients down here, when they start, you're here, and they go boom, vibrationally. They went right past you, and they don't need you anymore. I had a couple of people actually run off with the business that we had created together, went into business for themselves. And I don't blame them at all. That was my fault for approaching it from that vibrational perspective. And now I know. So as I said in the meditation, there's no shame. There's nothing wrong with falling off into the bushes and hurting yourself, because then you figure out how not to do that. And I'm much more confident in what I do now. I'm much more solid in who I am as an individual. The stuff that now can flow through me freely, just it feels so much better. And I don't have that scarcity energy flowing through me in that way anymore. So it doesn't matter. You can go ahead and do all these things, the way that I say not to do them, and figure it out for yourself. Maybe it'll be different for you. But my opinion is, don't do it. All right. Questions on any of that? Benita says, how would you suggest people want to collaborate and co-create? Do as two separate people working together? Absolutely. I would make each engagement its own separate package, because otherwise you have attachment forming. Oh, is that person gonna do something? Are they available? Or maybe I got to be available now. What if they need me tomorrow? Like suddenly now, again, feel the energy. You're starting to give yourself away. Do not give your energy away under any circumstances. You have no reason to compromise who you are for any reason. Don't be attached to another person. But if you're having fun with them, keep engaging. Boom, boom, boom. Keep engaging. Yeah, let's work together. But no commitment in the sense of an ongoing thing. That's just, again, as a startup, you can do it and find out how it goes. My opinion from my experience is, stay sovereign as a being. I am intuitive coach Kevin. I will work with other people as clients and maybe as peers if there's a project we're going to work on together. But here are my parameters. Here's my requirements. Here's my boundaries. This is how I work. And if I don't get what I need from the relationship, there isn't a relationship. Go find somebody else that'll work with you. But I'm self-fulfilled. That's a powerful place to come from. All right, let's keep moving because time slips away very quickly. Basics of finances are really simple at the beginner level. You have income, which is money received. That's from products and services, what we just talked about earlier. Okay. And they can come from other places too, but the vast majority will be from products and services. If you're channeling and you're charging $100 a session, and that is income. Okay, it's called gross income from a financial perspective because it doesn't have anything subtracted from it yet. And then you have expenses, the other half. That's money going out. And anything that's valid and business related, it can be an expense against the income. And so it's good to keep track of the expenses, where you're spending money on the business, because that offsets the income for profit. By the way, and from the expenses perspective, you don't get to choose what's an expense. The Internal Revenue Service, the IRS in the United States, whoever your tax body is in your country, they're the ones who will tell you what's a valid business expense and what is not. And our IRS has changed the rules many, many times. Seems like every year they change what's allowed and what's not. So this, again, is why you need somebody to help you with that. Although programs like Quicken, and I don't know if Quicken has a separate tax module or if they use there's a separate tax piece, but that'll do a lot of the work for you. So again, the program can help you if you want to stay small. Okay, so profit is just income minus expenses, and you want the profit to be positive over time. In other words, you don't want to be spending more money than you're taking in. A lot of people don't have a handle on that, and they don't focus on this simple equation, and then suddenly they start to get into debt because they can't cover their expenses. They've gone out and bought a nice expensive office for $1,000 a month, and they've got this service lined up, and they bought all these tools, but they don't have any income yet. So now suddenly you're starting off in debt. And you can do that. A lot of businesses do start off with that, but just be very careful that that's not a trend that can go on for very long before you are bankrupt, before you're out of business. So just keep an eye on how much money am I making net. Profit is after these two. And it can be more complicated, but just for this conversation. In a business, the profit and loss statement is what will tell you whether you're profiting or losing. Negative profit is called loss. And the profit is what you're taxed on typically. So there's an advantage of tracking all your expenses so your profit isn't so high, so your taxes aren't that high. And again, there's a lot along with this that goes along with this. That's why tax person is helpful. And one last thing on that is that profit is not a 4-letter word, as my good friend Bob Reeves used to tell me, who was my tax mentor and good friend for 30 years. Said you have to make a profit over the long term in order to stay in business. And you're in business to help people. Okay. So money, as W. Clement Stone said, money is good for the good it can do mankind. Okay. It's just energy flow. So allow yourselves to receive the profit, pay the taxes, but minimize them by getting proper expenses, and then get somebody to help you with that if you don't feel comfortable with it. Any questions on that? We got to keep moving here. We're going to be out of time very quickly. All right. Last major concept, taxes. I think I've mentioned this before. Find a tax person, even if it's just a temporary or short-term online service, or just somebody you can have an occasional consulting with. Sometimes you can find somebody they'll charge you for an hour or two, and you just go in and ask all your questions, and then you do your own taxes using a program like a Quicken or something. TurboTax, that was the other part that I was saying. I forgot. They used to be part of Quicken, and maybe they still are. I don't know. I haven't used that for so long, but that's a good tax. Use a good tax program. Okay. I mentioned taxes are paid on profit. I think that's pretty clear. Really important. Put money aside for taxes, because you don't want to get to the end of the year and find out that you made more money than you expected, which, hey, good news. But guess what? You owe more taxes than you expected. And if you don't have that money in your checking account to pay that, you're going to have to borrow it. So again, I learned so much from my friend Bob Reeves. He said just get a separate savings account, and every single check that you get, every single payment that you get, you carve off 25%. I actually bumped it up to 30% because I put some of that money into retirement. So figure out what your tax rate's going to be roughly. Typically in the US, if you're in a lower income, it's going to be anywhere from nothing to 15, 20%. I put 25% or 30% for me, but put it someplace where you can get your hands on it. There's also a component of this, which we'll get into here in a second. So be sure you have money for your taxes. If you're going to have any tax, then have money for it. In the United States, when your income rises above a certain point, your taxes become a certain amount. As a self-employed person, the government requires you to send some of your taxes in ahead of time. Those are called estimated quarterly income tax payments. Again, you might not hit this for a while, but at some point, so let's say that you owed $1,000 of taxes at the end of the year, and then the following year you're going to have to put in a minimum of $250 every quarter times 4 quarters would be $1,000 to be safe. They call it safe harbor. There's ways of figuring this out. They give you a worksheet, and so you can stress yourself, and you can send them too much money just to be safe, and they'll send it back to you at the end of the year. But so that's something that again, don't mess with taxes. And did I mention find a tax person? Taxes is the one thing you don't want to mess around with in your business. Do it the right way right off the bat, and then you'll breathe so much easier at night. Any questions on that or anything else here before we begin our slow descent into wrapping up? Remember, there will be a part 2, which we will cover here in just a sec. Any questions on anything that we've talked about so far? can imagine your eyes are probably glossing over right about now. I know how I felt when I first was introduced all this. I had actually had to teach myself accounting terms when I got my very first tax program before QuickBooks. It had no instructions. It expected you knew what a debit and a credit were and all that stuff. I actually had to get books out and read it. So I wasn't in a place to have a tax person yet. But that's okay. Do whatever you can. Whatever feels good to you. All right. So no last call for questions. You can always reach out to me afterwards, by the way, guys. All right. So what's next? Now that we've flooded your brain with part one, I'm going to actually copy and paste this into the chat window for you guys if you need it. And this will come out and there'll be an email which you'll get as a follow-up at some point, which will also have this information. Part two, everything you need to know about starting your spiritual business, but we're afraid to ask. So I'm going to offer this on 2 different days, same time station on Wednesdays, next Wednesday, the 20th at 10 a.m. And then the following Wednesday, the 27th at 7 p.m., just Eastern time, just like this one was. So I'm trying to keep the same pattern because moving forward, it's pretty clear I'm going to be doing these kind of workshops on a regular basis, probably once a month, I would guess. And because I have, Carolyn, for instance, is in Australia, and I have people in Tasmania and Serbia and the UK, and we have to be able to handle a global audience, and you'll run into that too if you do remote Zoom sessions. You'll want to keep in mind that there's that people are in different time zones. The booking system takes care of a lot of that for you, but that will be something to be concerned with. So to sign up, it's the same link. psprograms.com/free workshops. I added this since our last workshop, so it may look different from what you were used to, but I wanted to make it real easy to be able to hook up and register. Again, this will be in an email that comes out. Some of the topics we'll talk about in this part 2 is setting your price, which is we were talking about earlier. Lynn thankfully brought that up, and there's a lot of emotion around what you're worth. So we'll go through some of that. I've created some checklists for getting your business up and running quickly. Just things you can check off. I did this, I did this, I did this, and some of the things we talked about here in the first part. I'll send a handout to you so that you can use that as your getting started part. Another big topic, which will probably be its own workshop. Suzanne and I did one years ago called vibrational marketing, excuse me. And it's how to attract clients using law of attraction, not marketing effort. So you can, we don't do any advertising. I only just started sending emails out because I'm doing this program and people want to be notified. But otherwise, I don't do any marketing other than occasionally telling people I'm doing something. So you can get to a point where you're in alignment with what you're offering, and then clients just show up. And that's where you ultimately want to be. Nothing wrong with sending emails out and putting stuff on Facebook, but if that's not your joy, then you're going to actually dampen your own energy by trying to figure out how to find clients and market to them. And then suddenly you're not offering the wholeness of who you are. Yeah, Lynn, you got a question? Yeah,
just very fast. So with vibrational marketing, so then the idea of the term, a launch, it does not factor, or would you consider this a launch?
Yeah, this is a launch. Okay. But again, follow your own guidance. But you'll feel into the energy around doing a launch. How fun does that feel to you?
Yeah, it's a little. It makes me a little. But
yeah.
I mean, in my own way, like if I guess sort of like I enjoy promoting something but in my own kind of casual, creative type of way.
There
and I guess
you go.
What this is, yeah.
I just had another client a few months ago who her ex partner was filming these beautiful videos, and she'd be dressed up in a gorgeous background, and she's reading the script, and nobody liked the video. There's no likes at all on it. And so we talked about it as he left, because he was very rigid. She's very loving, very open, very joyful. And I said, just let's make a video. You make a video, in your bathroom. It doesn't matter where you are, but be you. Share the joyfulness. And Lynn, you've got a big heart. You've got a playful attitude and a beautiful joy about you. I would use that and not try to catch yourself. I say this to everybody: don't catch yourself. Try not to, for everybody, myself included, try not to sell them anything. Don't be falsely excited. Don't ask the silly leading question. Oh, is your life suck? Come to my program and I'll make it all better. That those kind of things, just they're worn out. Just be yourself, share what's so much fun for you in doing the work that you do, and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And leave them a link where they can
sometimes though I feel like but then for another conversation, but sometimes I feel like I do that to a certain extent, and the fish are not biting anyway.
Well, you still have doubt.
What was that?
You still have doubt. And so the next thing we'll be talking about is overcoming doubt, fear, and imposter syndrome.
Okay, perfect.
On the next workshop. So you're right along with everybody else.
I'm helping you promote your with my own with all my own baggage.
Well, you're being an authentic version of yourself, Lynn, which I greatly appreciate. You're saying the things that other people are thinking.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
You're right where you need to be. And then the last thing is I've got a couple of exercises where we will take your business experience and leverage it using law of attraction techniques, where we will milk the positive energy and step into the business as it is, fully running vibrationally, and start to move into the beautiful energy field of clients flowing in and abundance flowing in and the joy and the freedom that comes from expressing yourself. So I've got a couple of exercises which we'll do at the end of that, so that when you leave that workshop, my intent is that you will be so excited about your business, you will already know that it's already happened. Your subconscious will be programmed to believe that, in fact, you have a running business and that it's very successful. And if your subconscious believes it, guess what happens? It happens. Okay? So all we're doing is reprogramming the old belief systems and then letting them go. Okay. And then, of course, I think everybody knows about Lightworker Exchange, our free Facebook group where we do Thursday evening meetings, where a lot of you guys came from. This is my way of not only giving back and bringing people together, but also my place to practice my joy, like what Lynn, we were just talking about. This is where I get to show up and have fun and play with people that I know and love, my tribe. Intuitive Connection is what these workshops, this is the umbrella, this is the ongoing program. There will be a small fee for this program. I hope to launch it by October. By the end of the second part, I hope to have this launched. Just got a couple more pieces I got to figure out. And then, of course, you can always work with me privately, intuitivecoachkevin.com. In fact, I should probably do what I said I'm going to tell everybody, other people to do. Paste that in the chat window. Oh, thanks for the kind words, guys. Appreciate that. All right, and then one last thing. Takeaways. Just maybe one or two people. What was the biggest thing you got from being here on this call today? Like, what's one thing you're going to do differently now, or an awareness that you had that you didn't have before you came online? Does anybody jump in, or go ahead and put it on the chat window? Who's the first courageous one? Or was it a complete waste of time and you're all falling asleep?
Well, I love that Lynn just went ahead and asked the questions that many of us probably wanted to ask and have running around in our mind, but just went ahead and said, this is what's on my mind. These are the things that I worry about. We all will worry about when you're just starting into a new adventure. I mean, there's many things that we question, and that's why Kevin was putting this on, just to bring some information to you so you can start getting comfortable with it.
Any other takeaways? Thanks, Vanita. Like, what was the one thing that you thought, aha, in that moment? Like, oh, I didn't know that. Anything? Caroline? Oh, Caroline, are you, I can't hear you. It looks like you are unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think your thing is up here. Tilt it down.
Your little microphone.
Your microphone.
Oh,
That's much better.
Oh my God, I was too busy thinking and taking it all in my heart.
I appreciate that very much.
I think what's jumping out for me is a demystifying the words around what business means, what helping other people means. It's demystifying that, because there's so much out there that says you should do this and you should do that, but you've actually made it very simple and clear.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Put my thing back.
There you go. And Lynn.
Yes, thank you. No, I'm looking at the notes I was taking, and what it reminds me of is I feel like actually I got more clarity on from this thing that you're doing. I got more clarity on the stuff that actually like makes me nervous, which is all the tax crap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that, you know, as a creative person, that's the stuff that for me was always overwhelming. And that could be like, I want to be able to move beyond that, you know, not let that stop me much anymore. So, you know, so the way you laid it out, you know, kind of puts it into a better step-by-step perspective. And also I like the things like the first section where you mentioned about the booking system, you know, the merchant account, the business bank account. It makes it seem a little bit more doable and a little bit more, I feel like I have a better understanding of the setup. So even though that's not what excites me, you know, so I have to like make myself like sit and like absorb it, because like that's the stuff that's like, but that's part of having a business. So this made it seem a little bit more understandable for me. So thank you.
Very nice. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that, Lynn. And lastly, Julie, go ahead.
I think my favorite takeaway was letting your clients align to the way you do things rather than you trying to align with the way everybody expects you to do things. And the right people will show up is what I got from that. It's like, yeah. It makes it so much easier, and the stress is taken away of trying to please everybody. I tend to be a people pleaser. That's actually what my last job was. I had to adjust to what everybody wanted. So that was interesting to say, hey, I don't have to do that anymore. Really?
Yes. Yes. If there's a big takeaway for all of us in stepping into this work, myself included, it is exactly that. Exactly that. When we be ourselves, when we allow ourselves to really be our truly authentic selves, it's not only easy and fun, but all the rest of the stuff just works naturally. It's just amazing. Thanks for putting a really good fine point on that. All right. So lastly then, some of you have seen this picture before, my all-time favorite picture. This is several million people at a rally. Feel the millions of souls who are ready for your gifts right now. This is what was coming through in the meditation. Just take a look at that picture and absorb. Every one of them are looking for what you have and are just waiting patiently for you to step courageously into starting to share who you are. The love and appreciation they have is what you feel when you think about stepping into your gifts. And you feel that excitement about sharing who you are and going to the next step. That's where it's coming from. You're the channel for that energy. They're the other half of it, or you wouldn't feel the excitement of doing it. So they're out there waiting and calling for you. And so when you're ready, you can step right into it. All right. That's all I got for tonight, boys and girls. If you got any other questions, comments, reach out to me afterwards. We got to wrap up here for tonight. I'm always available on Facebook and through email, text. I am here for you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for making this a success. I appreciate you all so much. And we'll see you hopefully for part 2 and see where we can take this magic. Thanks
Thank you,
again,
Kevin.
guys.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks
care.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye for now.